is assuming that Todoroki, out of arrogance, or much less a sense of self-preservation, will take this challenge, right? So Bakugo turns himself into a literal missile coming at Todoroki. And guess what Todoroki does? He stands there and gets blown the fuck up! Yet he doesn't have an answer for it. Now, he can be a character in Sink or Swim based on his willingness to improve in hands. So everything outside of the amount of damage and destruction he causes with his punches is entirely his natural physical strength, right? And battle ability. In other words, Todoroki is getting beat up by a without a quirk. So, I rewatched season 2 of My Hero Academia and something was bugging me. It's Todoroki. I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna be all over the place. I'm not gonna lie. Look, if Shigaraki is the biggest fraud in My Hero Academia, Todoroki might be the show's biggest scammer.
I am not human. I'm a ham this ugly ass bitch and she don't stop choosing. Up the heavy metal boy, I don't fuck with rock music. I ain't from the West, I throw up dubs cause I'm not losing.
It starts with the sports festival. So in the build up to the sports festival, Todoroki waddles up to Deku and presses him about his All Might connection. And Deku is like, if it's up, just say so. And this is where my beef with Todoroki starts. And now, it's not entirely his fault, but in the fewest words possible, My Hero Academia suffers from the one ball problem. And the one ball problem is you got a team full of the most talented motherfuckers in the world, right? A team full of shooters, right? Or if you're American, you got the fucking Philadelphia Eagles roster, right? And if you're not familiar with the roster, a debatably, a top 10, debatably top 5 wide receiver, a literal Heisman Trophy winner at the other wide receiver position, which means he was the best college football player in America. And not to mention, you have unarguably one of, if not the most physically gifted running backs since LaDainian Tomlinson, and he played in the early 2000s. So, and the one ball problem is you got all this fucking talent on the team, but you only get one ball, and only one person can get the ball at a certain time. So no matter who you give the ball to, if it's, if it doesn't work out, everybody and your grandmother, or not your grandmother, everyone and their grandmother is going to scream at you for not choosing the other person. That's the one ball problem. Anyways, it's me. I'm the metaphorical grandmother. But I bring that up because in this arc, you have all this talent on screen and they choose Shoto Todoroki. And in my opinion, he kind of fumbles the bag. You know what I'm saying? He fumbles the bag so hard it makes me think, bro, why didn't you choose someone else? So Todoroki kicks off the festival by destroying one of the 0 Point Titans from season 1, right? And this would have been cool if it wasn't immediately followed by Momo the neglected Ryaurozu destroying 3 of them. Okay, so Todoroki is clearing the obstacle course and is the clear pacemaker, but Bakugo tries to slime him, which slows him down enough for Deku to actually win the event. And I get that it's Bakugo, but for this to be your arc at this point in time, these hiccups happen way too often. Especially given the fact he goes from overpowered super teen to completely overwhelmed and sometimes in the same fighting sequence. Despite one-shotting a 0 Point Titan, Todoroki gets to the end of the obstacle course and gets attacked by Bakugo, like I said earlier. And under normal circumstances, I'd let it slide. But it's your arc, bro! You're supposed to be calm, cool, the ice assassin, right? And you got 0 answers for Bakugo running up to you and swinging on you, brother? Anyways, and you take so long bumping shoulders with him, you end up losing the obstacle course to a nigga with no quirk. So now it's the chariot battle. And surely he doesn't fumble 2 events in this in the row, right? The event starts and Deku is doing a good job of playing keep away, right? And this is a little bit of a nitpick, but I'm gonna get it off because running a business here. So there's many ways to skin a deer and there's many ways to dissect a problem. And an interesting part of My Hero's training arcs is seeing how the students attack the same issue in different ways. And if we take the Naruto theory of Naruto was supposed to represent taijutsu, which is basically boxing, Sasuke is supposed to represent ninjutsu, which is spellcasting, and Sakura is supposed to represent genjutsu, which is just mental warfare. You could say, for a lack of a better word, in a very loose apples to oranges comparison, that Deku is supposed to represent being strategic and reactive, at least in this arc. Bakugo is supposed to be brute force and proactiveness, and Todoroki, in theory, was supposed to be the best of both worlds. A blend of the power and a calm demeanor to be strategic and decisive. His only flaw on paper is confidence issues and obviously his grudge with his father. So, in this event, your goal is to get as many points as humanly possible, okay, within the time frame. Deku, our strategist, is in an interesting and peculiar situation. His headband, which doubles as a flag in its points, is worth more than every headband in the stadium combined. So, instead of picking and choosing his battles, he's forced to use his wits to win every battle thrown at him. Bakugo is going to go after the insta win, and you know what I'm saying? He's going to go after that headband no matter what. So now we get Todoroki, and you'd assume, given how much thought he put into his team, that he's supposed to be the tactical one, right? He's supposed to be the smart one, right? He's supposed to take the efficient route and not be the pig to Deku being the metaphorical carrot. I know he has a bone to pick with Midoriya, but you'd assume he'd at least consider robbing the cannon fodder to secure his spot in the next test before blindly chasing Deku across the map. So we're halfway through the event and Midoriya gets cornered by several teams. He escapes and Todoroki freezes and robs them. So now it's endgame, right? And the beans are on the line. Midoriya has been cornered and Bakugo is distracted doing his own thing. So Midoriya is exploiting the fact that Todoroki can't go left. And Todoroki acknowledges that he is being exploited, yet he doesn't have an answer for it. Now, he can be a character in sink or swim based on his willingness to improve, but Ida steps up and uses his new secret move. So Ida, he speed boost and nabs the 1 mil headband for Todoroki. Now Todoroki ends up instinctively grabbing it as he is getting literally carried to a fucking victory by a character that, I'm not gonna lie, I'm very harsh on Ida, but yeah, he really carried Todoroki here. And the thing is, under normal circumstances, I wouldn't care, because normally it'd be about Deku. But like, you've completely taken over the arc, so you'd assume if you're in a position to win, it'd be because of your actions, you feel me? Nonetheless, I was impressed by Ida in this situation, but unfortunately for everyone on his team, he's basically your average gym rat now because his inches are blue. So, what are you gonna do, Todoroki? It's all on you. So, Team Deku, and I shit you not, runs right at Todoroki. No zigzag, no flanking maneuvers, no feint. It is literal jousting, alright? They run straight at him. Deku runs up, and it is kind of funny looking. Deku runs up, slaps the fire out of Todoroki, and that's not a metaphor for him slapping Todoroki really hard. And Todoroki is so shocked that he used his fire, that he used his left side, that he is just mentally stun locked, and Deku robs him.
Must be on top. Give me that shit.
And the thing is, I'm like, brother, I'm gonna give Deku his flowers in another video, but for now, dog, you're the most overpowered character in the arc, and you just got washed by a dude with no quirk. And I know Deku used the wind pressure or shockwave from One For All. Before Todoroki gets his wits about him, the event ends and he wins since he was smart enough to shuffle the order of his headbands. And I want to throw in that Deku was not smart enough to grab a whole bunch of them, but Tokiomi was, which is kind of odd that he grabbed a bunch of them and none of them end up being the 1 mil headband, which means Todoroki suffers no consequences for having this big ass blunder dog. The whole 5 people. You had a team of niggas relying on you in your arc, and you were so shocked that you broke your grudge against your father that you literally almost ruined the chances of 4 other people to make it to the next event, all because you couldn't get your shit together and actually fight one-on-one, right? I know there was a team thing, but like you were jousting with Deku. He ain't had no quirk, nigga. It's your art. Now we get into the funniest event where a lot of characters really shine and a lot of them So Todoroki literally one-shots everyone, but there's something consistent that leads to his downfall. Now that I think about it, I like how Todoroki is presented as this unmatched prodigy, with his only flaw being family politics. But in truth, whether it's intentional or not, we've actually been seeing that the talent gap between him and his classmates actually isn't that big, and he has a lot more flaws than just his grudge with his father. For example, Senior Duct Tape here, I think his name is Sero, but I'm going to call him Duct Tape because if I'm going to get his name wrong, I might as well use a funny name. Senior Duct Tape actually beats Todoroki in terms of sprint to fire time and actually grabs him. And honestly, against about half the people in the tournament, this is an automatic win. Now, Todoroki panics because, well, he's literally restrained and he's literally like 2.5 seconds away from being called out. Bro, look at how happy Acidity is, bro. She is cheesing. So he just obliterates Duct Tape with an ice wall. And you'll come to notice during this arc, Todoroki's confidence comes from his proficiency with ice, but when that doesn't work, he begins to either panic or go overboard, both leading to him forcing a square peg in a round hole. So here's the Deku fight. Honestly, one of the best in the series, and honestly should have been one of 2 eye-openers for him. So I'll spitfire the fight real quick because Todoroki starts with 3 ice attacks and Deku sacrifices 3 fingers to destroy these. At some point, Todoroki forgets that Deku is the best close quarters fighter in the class at this point in time and rushes him. He tries a overhead hammer punch, but it misses, and while he's on the ground he launches an ice beam at Deku. Deku can't tell if this is some little ice attack or the actual ice prison that's actually destroyed a couple people, so he sacrifices an arm to erase everything in a 10-yard radius, and the shockwave sends Todoroki across the stadium. At this point, I want you to know that Deku has broken 5 fingers and has a broken arm. Despite this, Deku is punishing Todoroki. He's hit him in the gut several times, more like 3 or 4. And honestly, Todoroki should have been vomiting or even suffering from a broken rib. But Deku is landing crazy strikes on Todoroki, and I'm like, bro, it's your arc. And remember, Deku doesn't have enhanced movement. At this point in time, Deku can only pack a punch his fist and hands, so everything outside of the amount of damage and destruction he causes with his punches is entirely his natural physical strength, right, and battle ability. In other words, Todoroki is getting beat up by a nigga without a quirk. Now, Todoroki wins when their key battle ends with Deku being tossed out of the ring, but this all comes to a head against Bakugo. This should have been a top 3 fight in the show, if not from a hand-to-hand point of view, from a style standpoint. Now, there's no way in hell Todoroki beats Bakugo, but his attempts to keep Bakugo outside of punching distance would have been super cinematic and entertaining. Honestly, I would have taken that over watching Ida get juked, humiliated, and pranced around like a raging bull for 3 minutes. Nonetheless, I said Deku is the best close quarters fighter, but Bakugo is definitely the most dominant. I know you can argue being dominant is better than being good. Nonetheless, so Bakugo is off to a great start, and Todoroki has no answers for his movements overall, much less his in-air maneuvering. But the fight's rather short because, well, Bakugo is like, if you're gonna fight me, it's gonna take everything you got. And honestly, he's not wrong at all. So Bakugo is a beast, by the way. In his fight against Kirishima, he tires him out by being defensive and just weaving, then completely obliterates him when his quirk wears out because, like, you can't flex and hold your abs for 10 minutes while swinging, dog. You're gonna get tired, so he just obliterates him. And that's not mentioning if Dark Shadow wasn't a literal shadow, Bakugo would have killed him. We know Bakugo is smart enough to know that Todoroki can't really hang with him and he can just chip away at him, but Bakugo literally says and shows, which is what I like about him, that I don't want to beat you. I want this win to be so dominant and one-sided that people understand that I'm the best, right? So Bakugo lines up for a decisive strike, right? Literal quirk jousting, for lack of a better word. So he's assuming that Todoroki, out of arrogance, or much less a sense of self-preservation will take this challenge, right? So Bakugo turns himself into a literal fucking missile coming at Todoroki. And guess what Todoroki does? He stands there and gets blown the fuck up! And the part that throws me is not only is it disappointing, but he suffers no consequences from this. Nothing at all. There's no development. There's no all of these teachers watching the fight, and none of them goes up to Todoroki and says, hey, in the heat of battle, if your opponent is literally spinning so fast, he's creating a goddamn vortex, and he's coming at you at the speed of Mach, get the fuck out the way, the absolute last thing you should do is just stand there. Like, what are you doing? And also, I don't know if I've mentioned it enough, it's your arc. Not to mention, I don't even think he went to go see the fucking healing lady after this. He might have, but everybody else, like Deku goes to go see the healing lady, and she fucking scolds All Might and is like, he's fucking up his body, and Deku, you're gonna have permanent scars on your hands, and if you do this again or 2 or 3 more times, you will not be able to move. But Todoroki gets literally piss missile to the fucking gut, right? I'm ranting, my bad. So skipping forward, Todoroki is actually pretty dope in the Stain fight. Deku was in a fight he couldn't win, but Todoroki's flames covered his openings, therefore Stain couldn't really capitalize on the fact that this was a woeful mismatch, but also Deku was really holding up pretty well. And Deku kept Todoroki from getting rushed because that fight wouldn't have lasted 20 seconds. Nonetheless, his last notable appearance is in the training event, so they foreshadow the event by saying everyone will face their weaknesses and bad matchups. And Aizawa says Todoroki relies on brute force, and then later when he actually gets in the event, he says that he relies on his quirk too much in general. And this turns into a, hey, you sink or swim based on your teammate kind of thing. It's a weird thing, because it's like, if we're giving Todoroki main character energy and main character screen time, I kind of expect him to go through something a little more interesting, right? Like Aizawa exploiting and explaining the fact that naturally opponents want to close the distance between them and Todoroki, so Todoroki can't just sit there and play sentry and shoot fire and ice at them. You know what I'm saying? Would have been a little more interesting than forcing him to interact with his teammate. Also, it would have been nice of him to point out that he has been getting absolutely destroyed and exploited in close combat and just exploited in combat in general since the competition started. Like, the thing is, Uraraka isn't the smartest person in Class A, but outside of the golden duo of Todoroki and Midoriya, she's literally the only one that says my quirk relies on me getting close. I probably should figure out how to handle myself in close quarters combat. So it's just weird that nobody came to the conclusion that they need to figure out how to handle themselves in a situation where their quirk won't do all the work. Like, especially Tokiyomi, dog. Come on. Todoroki never comes to this conclusion whatsoever. And I feel like this was a little all over the place, so this summary will bring it all together. A big part of Season 2 is Bakugo and Midoriya making strides, right? Just improving monumentally. Bakugo becomes more explosive and dominant in his fighting. He also becomes a significantly smarter fighter, albeit that his default way of fighting is just overwhelming force. But the thing is, he has so much firepower that he can just use overwhelming force. Deku, honestly, is one of the most tactical and technical, not only fighters, but just like in general battle sense and knowing what to do. You know what I'm saying? Just overall adaptability to any situation. Then in the end, he gets like enhanced mobility and starts blending that into his fighting style. It's really sick. I genuinely like Deku. That is going to be the most positive video that I do about My Hero Academia. Anyways, so what's throwing me off is that Todoroki kind of has the Gohan effect, right? And if you haven't seen Dragon Ball Z, at any given time, Gohan can be and sometimes is the most talented and strongest person in the episode, regardless of who's in the episode. But outside of that episode alone, or that specific moment in the episode, it's basically the come on do something meme. And unless something changes in the final season that's about to come out, outside of Aizawa making him realize that he needs to actually talk to his teammates instead of bossing them around, Todoroki doesn't progress or regress at all for the rest of the show. And I mean, that's cool, but like referring back to the one ball problem, when you have characters like Bakugo, Midoriya, All Might, Uraraka, Aizawa, like all of these super talented characters that you can do something with at literally any given time, when Todoroki gets to the finals just to shut down, right, and gets knocked the fuck out, and there's no story building off the fact that not only did he lose confidence in the middle of a battle situation, there's no consequences for getting knocked out damn near twice in the span of one episode, or not one episode, but 2 episodes, which would have been less than a day. He's got knocked out like twice in one day, and there's no building on that. Me personally, it's like, well, if you were just gonna have a fucking fight sequence, there would have been cooler people to fight for 5 or 6 minutes. And then if you wanted to do more story, you could have picked another character to actually do story things with. Like, this is the equivalent of having goddamn the most talented team in the world, and you just fucking the LeBron meme where he's like, dog, you got me! Give me a ball! So this is the part of the video where I summarize 25 minutes of your time in one sentence. Dog, I feel like Todoroki is season 2's biggest scammer or biggest fraud. Not even a fraud. He's like slightly disappointing because he doesn't develop. Like, he gets this screen time that delves into like his personal life, and then he gets this screen time that where they don't say his flaws, but they make it visually apparent, like visually obvious what his flaws is. And it's like, cool, we got this new character, he's so talented and he has these flaws, right? And it's like, if he just cleans this up, he will be a sick character, and they don't do anything with it. And then the flip side of that is he has these flaws, and it would be super interesting if people keep explaining, like if it's a storyline, like he doesn't use his left side. That was a very interesting storyline, but then he uses his left side, but now he has confidence issues in actually deploying it, or he just shuts down in the middle of battle. Anyways, we went over that. So yeah, this video is long enough. I don't really have anything to say at the end of the video to keep it up being with you. The next video should be coming out rather soon. I don't know if it actually will be out before or after this one. This came out to be a lot longer than I thought, bro. I'm so cooked. Anyways, until we meet in that next video, whatever it is, or the comments, remember, we know, man, because we know we have next, sponsored by Tori.